Ambrose McKinley is a fierce, blind Vietnam War veteran who recently decided to shift to a retirement home surrounded by woods with his seeing eye dog, a German shepherd named Shadow. Now that his wife is no more, he is determined to survive on his own. On the day of moving, he's out shopping for a headstone for himself with his son Will because priorities. They soon reach the retirement community center, and while Will helps carry the bags, Ambrose touches the walls to feel the new place when he finds a scratch mark on the wall and a nail of a huge creature lodged inside it. Ambrose then ventures out and meets a woman named Dolores, a friendly neighbor. But before he can talk more, Will ushers him back into the house. However, when 3 women named Gloria, Clarissa, and Emma invite themselves into Ambrose's house with welcome food, Ambrose doesn't bother to put on his charismatic flair after the women come off as a little bit cheeky, making them leave. That night, with a full moon in the sky, Dolores is talking to her daughter on the phone when she hears someone at the door. The knocks turn into bangs, and soon a creature breaks down the door and attacks Dolores, spilling her guts out. Meanwhile, Ambrose hears the commotion and calls out to Dolores, but he gets no response. Shadow hears the growl and runs to the door, and soon enough the creature attacks them too. Ambrose desperately tries to find his gun while Shadow fights off the creature to keep Ambrose safe. Ambrose finally finds the gun and the bullets, but by the time he's ready to take the creature down, the creature growls and runs out, breaking through the window. In this entire ordeal, poor Shadow is left mortally wounded. Ambrose finds Shadow after hearing his whimpering. The next day, the movers show up with the rest of the things and are shocked to see Ambrose's house destroyed. They go inside to find Ambrose cradling a now dead Shadow while the other guy finds a dead Dolores. Will rushes to his dad after hearing the news, and the two take Shadow to the vet to find what could have attacked Shadow and him. The doctor tells him they have had such instances before in the same community because of its secluded location. Ambrose decides to return to the retirement home and take Shadow's corpse along. They find police all over the house once they reach back. Ambrose talks to the police, who dismiss the incident as an animal attack. They give Ambrose a few obligatory instructions on how to stay safe, which irks him, and he decides it is best to ignore them. But he can't brush off some details, like the attacks taking place once a month on a full moon night. So the next day, when the mailman comes, Ambrose asks him to show him where the blood leads. They end up walking towards another home where a couple, Gloria and John Baker, live. He thanks the mailman and heads to Gloria's house on his own. When Gloria sees him coming, she invites him in, and Ambrose apologizes for being rude the other day. She doesn't mind and leaves to get some tea. Meanwhile, Ambrose hears a sound and follows it. He reaches a room where John is sleeping inside a machine. Ambrose doesn't realize what it is. He starts touching the machine, but Gloria arrives and stops him right away. She explains John is in an iron lung and Ambrose would have accidentally turned off the machine. She escorts Ambrose out, saying she has plans for the day, so they will have to continue some other day. Ambrose doesn't mind and wishes her best with her vegetable husband, in his infamous words. Ambrose is back on his property and is digging in his backyard when 2 police officers he met earlier arrive. They tell him there's been another attack and a man named Cole was killed about 3 blocks from there, and asks him to stick to his property and not wander off. To find more information about what is happening, Ambrose decides to take the shuttle that comes every Sunday to pick up the residents to take them to church, despite not being religious. On the bus, he meets Father Roger Schmidt and James, who organizes the shuttle services. Ambrose immediately smells smoke from Father Roger and asks if he smokes. Father Roger admits he does and has a persistent cough that people who smoke usually suffer from. It has been 2 weeks, and Ambrose hasn't buried Shadow yet. Will and his wife Anne are worried for Ambrose's well-being. After all, walking around with a shovel and keeping your dead dog in the house isn't something people usually do. The 3 pesky women in particular hold a personal grudge against Ambrose, and Gloria even accuses him of trying to kill her husband. But Ambrose couldn't care less. He has better things to focus on, like preparing for something sinister that he feels is approaching. One day, he goes out with Will and Anne to purchase a headstone, and he chooses the biggest and most expensive one for Shadow. That evening, someone in the hoodie sneaks up on Ambrose, but Ambrose smells him and smacks him with his shovel. He goes inside to fetch his gun, but by that time, the man is gone. However, he has left his scarf there. Ambrose informs the police, but they are more concerned about the decomposing dog's body. The next Sunday, Ambrose is waiting for the shuttle, but the shuttle leaves without stopping for him. Instead, James arrives in a car to pick him up. After the sermon, Father Roger sees Ambrose sitting alone and he joins him for a chat. The tombstone arrives after a day and Ambrose asks for a lift from the delivery man to visit the gun store. He asks the store owner to make silver bullets for him and also asks for a single silver shell. He asks if anybody else has ever got them made. The store owner says there was and gives him a name. Back in his house, James looks at himself in the mirror, his body covered in deep gashes as he applies ointment on the wounds. After that, he goes to his backyard to burn dead animals in an incinerator. He notices Ambrose coming back holding a packet and recognizes the gun store logo. A night before Ambrose's 1-month anniversary at the new house, Ambrose finally buries Shadow. He's visited by Will, who almost gets his head blown off because he sneaks into the house. Their relationship isn't the best, especially after Will's mom's death. He has come to inform Ambrose that Anne is pregnant and they are moving closer to Anne's parents. Ambrose is hurt but doesn't say anything and Will leaves. In the middle of the night, Clarissa and her husband Richard hear someone in their house and see James sitting in the living room. He looks stressed and asks them to pray with him. They do it for his sake, but James ends up biting Clarissa and Richard. The next morning, he visits Emma and bites a chunk off of her hand before fleeing. Father Roger visits Ambrose and tells him he's visiting a neighbor and decided to stop by. After a brief chat, Father Roger leaves and Ambrose realizes Father Roger has gone to see James. He knows what is going on and runs to stop Father, but he has already left. Father Roger finds James peeling his skin off as penance. It seems Father is aware of this habit, which is why he doesn't look shocked. It is revealed that James was the one who bought the silver bullets from the store. He knew about the beast and tried killing it, and he succeeded, but the beast bit him before it died, turning James into one. His wounds heal, and he confesses he is a werewolf. He admits to killing out of love because if he doesn't, the affected person transforms into a werewolf. Seeing James transform, the father runs, but James mauls him in his car. Ambrose reaches the neighborhood and hears screams. He goes into Gloria's house and finds John decapitated. He recognizes a smell, and as Gloria in her werewolf form attacks Ambrose, he defends himself but gets a deep gash in his abdomen from her claw. Ambrose makes it back home, and after dressing the wound, he calls Will to leave a message. He tells Will that he's sorry he couldn't be a good father or a good husband to his wife. He wishes Will well and that he become a father and a husband that Ambrose could never become. Ambrose then wears his army uniform, checks all the traps he has laid, has multiple doses of his medicine, wears a hearing aid used to enhance his hearing, and loads his gun with silver bullets. He then throws a bloodied handkerchief and waits till 3 werewolves show up. He hears them and shoots one of them in the heart. He is able to shoot another werewolf. However, the third is able to evade being shot and enters Ambrose's house. Determined to shoot the beast dead, Ambrose panics and mistakenly shoots himself in the foot, but manages to shoot the werewolf dead in the third attempt. However, his troubles don't end there. One of the werewolves is still alive and attacks Ambrose. The two get into a fight and Ambrose drags himself to the living room where he has hidden the shotgun. He aims it at the werewolf's head and pulls the trigger. He's not done yet, as James is still out there somewhere. Ambrose activates a booby trap using the heavy headstone, but it doesn't do much damage to James. He pounces on Ambrose and the two fight. James bites Ambrose in the shoulder, but Ambrose is able to stab James in his eyes and shoots him. Ambrose then sits on his porch, tired and done with the drama. Will soon reaches the house after getting Ambrose's message and is shocked to see werewolves' bodies lying outside the house. He rushes in to find Ambrose, who has passed away due to an overdose of the medicine because he refuses to turn into an animal. At Ambrose's funeral at dusk, Will and Anne stand near Ambrose's grave, holding the folded U.S. flag. Will uses his father's rifle and points it at the moon before shooting. That's our recap for the horror movie Late Phases. From werewolves to vampires, ghosts to ghouls, it's a supernatural feast. Subscribe for more recaps of the latest horror movies. With our quick summaries, you can experience multiple movies in a single day.